The massive screens in Earth's Global Defense Center lit up with countless red dots. Captain Mark Wilson rubbed his tired eyes, thinking it was another glitch in the system. But this was different. The dots were moving in perfect formation, approaching Earth's solar system with purpose. "Sir, you need to see this," called out one of the radar operators. His voice trembled slightly as he enlarged the image. What they saw made their blood run cold. Over 300 massive ships, each larger than anything humans had ever built, were heading straight for them. The alert went out worldwide. Within hours, the United Earth Council gathered in their underground chamber beneath the Swiss Alps. Military leaders from every nation sat around a circular table, their faces illuminated by holographic displays showing the approaching fleet. Admiral James Miller stood at the center of the room. At 60 years old, he had seen his fair share of crises, but nothing like this. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "we are looking at the first confirmed contact with an alien civilization, and they're not coming with a welcome basket." The room erupted in concerned murmurs. The fleet's trajectory and formation left no doubt. This was an invasion force. As if on cue, every communication device on Earth received the same message. The screen showed a tall, blue-skinned being with 4 eyes and ornate armor. Its voice boomed through translators worldwide. "People of Earth, I am High Commander Dax of the Galactic Empire. Your planet has been chosen for integration into our realm. Surrender peacefully, and you will be granted basic rights under Imperial law. Resist, and you will be conquered. You have 24 hours to respond." The message ended, leaving Earth in stunned silence. Back in the council chamber, Admiral Miller noticed something odd about the Imperial fleet's approach. They were moving in tight, rigid formations, beautiful to look at, but terribly impractical from a military standpoint. Their ships were massive and impressive, but they moved like they were in a parade, not preparing for potential combat. He pulled up the historical database, cross-referencing it with the analysis of the Imperial message. "Computer, show me all mentions of the Galactic Empire in the transmission." The AI displayed the results. The Empire had conquered over 200 species across thousands of worlds. They had never failed in their conquests. Every civilization they encountered had either surrendered immediately or fallen within days. But something was missing from their records. "They've never fought humans before," Miller said, his voice cutting through the panic in the room. "Look at their ships, their formations, even their message. They're used to species that give up without a fight." The council members turned to him. General Thompson, a veteran of the African Continental Wars, leaned forward. "What are you suggesting, Admiral?" "I'm suggesting," Miller said, pulling up images of human military history, "that they have no idea what they're walking into. Every species they've conquered probably handed over their worlds without real resistance. But humanity." He let out a grim laugh. "We've been fighting ourselves for thousands of years. We've mastered the art of warfare in ways they couldn't imagine." The room grew quiet as the implications sank in. Humans had fought on every terrain imaginable. In deserts, in snow, in jungles, in cities. They had mastered guerrilla warfare, developed weapons that could strike from invisible positions, and created battle strategies that seemed to defy logic. "We need to warn them," Miller said finally. "Not for their sake, but because it's the right thing to do. They should know what they're getting into." The council voted unanimously. Earth would send a response, but not one of surrender. They would warn the Empire about humanity's capacity for warfare, give them a chance to withdraw before learning the hard way. As the council members left to prepare their forces, Miller stayed behind, studying the Imperial fleet's movements. He thought about human history, about how every major empire had eventually faced an opponent they underestimated. The Persians, the Romans, the Mongols, the British, all had learned painful lessons about assuming their power made them invincible. Now, an alien empire was about to learn the same lesson. They thought they were dealing with just another peaceful species to add to their collection. Instead, they were about to face humanity, a species that had spent its entire history perfecting the art of war. Miller smiled grimly as he sent out the order to begin preparations. The Empire had no idea what was coming, but they would. Soon, Earth's diplomatic team assembled in the neutral meeting zone, a massive space station hastily constructed between Mars and Earth. Ambassador Robert Wells straightened his uniform, watching through the station's windows as the Imperial shuttle approached. Behind him stood 2 military advisors and a historian, each chosen carefully for this crucial meeting. The Imperial delegation arrived with typical pomp and ceremony. High Commander Dax towered over the humans, his 4 eyes scanning them with obvious disdain. 3 other Imperial officials followed him, their ornate armor gleaming under the station's lights. "You have our terms," Dax said without preamble. "Your response." Wells stepped forward, his expression calm. "Before we give our answer, we'd like to show you something." He gestured to the large screen behind him. "A brief history lesson, if you will." Dax made a dismissive gesture. "We have no interest in the history of a primitive species." "That's where you're making your first mistake," Wells replied, activating the display. "Computer, begin presentation." The screen lit up with footage from Earth's wars. It started with ancient battles, armies clashing with swords and shields, showing the brutal nature of hand-to-hand combat. Then came the medieval period, with its siege engines and fortifications. "Primitive indeed," Dax scoffed. Wells continued undeterred. "Then came our industrial age." The footage shifted to World War I, showing trenches, gas warfare, and the first tanks. The Imperial officials shifted uncomfortably as they watched soldiers fighting in muddy hellscapes. "These are from just over a century ago," Wells explained. "But we were just getting started." The screen showed World War I, massive naval battles, aerial combat, and the devastating power of nuclear weapons. The Imperial delegation's confident smirks began to fade. "And that's not even recent history," Wells continued. "Computer, show modern warfare capabilities." The display shifted to showcase current military technology: stealth aircraft, drone swarms, electromagnetic weapons, and orbital defense systems. Footage played of military exercises showing coordinated attacks from space, air, land, and sea. "In our history," Wells explained, "we've fought over 15,000 major wars. We've developed weapons specifically designed to counter every possible tactical advantage. We've mastered warfare in every environment, from Arctic tundra to burning deserts, from deep oceans to mountain peaks." One of the Imperial advisors whispered something to Dax, who waved him silent. "Impressive videos," Dax said, though his tone had lost some of its earlier arrogance. "But the Empire has conquered worlds far more advanced than yours." Wells nodded to the historian, who stepped forward with another data display. "We analyzed your conquest records. Every species you've encountered either surrendered immediately or attempted to defend using conventional military doctrine. But humans," he paused, letting his words sink in, "we don't fight conventionally." The screen showed guerrilla warfare tactics, resistance movements, and asymmetric warfare examples. "When we can't win with strength, we win with cunning. When we can't win alone, we form alliances. When we can't win today, we fight for years, decades if necessary." "Are you threatening the Empire?" Dax's voice carried a dangerous edge. "No," Wells replied calmly. "We're warning you. You've never faced a species like us. We're not just soldiers. Every human is a potential fighter. We turn tools into weapons, buildings into fortresses, and peaceful landscapes into battlefields." He stepped closer to Dax, looking up at the towering alien. "We don't want war. But if you force one upon us, you need to understand what you're starting. This isn't a threat, it's a courtesy. We're giving you information your empire has never had before, what it's like to fight humans." The Imperial delegation watched in silence as the screen showed more footage: urban warfare, naval combat, space defense systems, and the countless ways humans had learned to fight and survive. "You have 1 hour to leave our solar system," Wells said finally. "After that, whatever happens next is your choice. But remember, we warned you." Dax stared at the human delegation for a long moment. For the first time in his career, he felt a flicker of uncertainty. The Empire had never retreated before, but they'd also never encountered a species that spoke about war with such intimate knowledge. As the Imperial delegation left the station, Wells watched their shuttle depart. He hoped they would make the right choice, but looking at the military advisors beside him, he knew humanity was ready either way. The next hour would determine whether the Empire was wise enough to heed a warning, or foolish enough to learn the hard way why humans had survived so long in a hostile universe. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Commander Anna Stone stood in Earth's most secure military facility. Red warning lights flashed across the massive control room as technicians activated systems that had been hidden from the public for decades. "Status report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "Defense Grid Alpha is online," reported Lieutenant Tom Baker. "Orbital platforms are emerging from stealth mode." On the main screen, hundreds of previously invisible satellites became visible, their weapon systems powering up. The Empire's deadline was approaching fast. After the failed diplomatic meeting, Earth had initiated its war protocols. What the aliens didn't know was just how prepared humanity really was. "Show me the fleet," Stone ordered. The display shifted, revealing Earth's secret space armada. Hidden in underground bases on the Moon and Mars, electromagnetically shielded from detection, were humanity's real warships. Not the civilian vessels and small military crafts the Empire had detected, but the true fighting force Earth had built in preparation for this very day. "All ships report ready, Commander," announced Captain Eric West. "Crews are in position. Stealth systems are functioning at optimal levels." Stone nodded, remembering the decades of preparation that had led to this moment. After discovering signs of alien civilizations 20 years ago, Earth's nations had secretly united their military resources. While maintaining a facade of division and relatively primitive space capability, they had built an advanced defense force unlike anything the galaxy had seen. "Begin civilian evacuation protocols," Stone commanded. Across the planet, underground shelters that had been disguised as subway stations and shopping centers opened their blast doors. The public had practiced these drills, thinking they were preparing for natural disasters. Now those drills would save millions of lives. In orbit, the Empire's fleet remained in position, still unaware of the true extent of Earth's capabilities. Their sensors showed only what humans wanted them to see: a largely defenseless planet with basic satellite technology and a few small military vessels. "A defense network is online," reported Dr. Alan Rogers, Chief of Cybersecurity. "Titan is running at full capacity." Titan, Earth's most advanced military artificial intelligence, had been designed specifically for space warfare. It could process combat data and adjust strategies faster than any organic mind. Stone walked to the central command platform, her footsteps echoing in the tense silence. "Show me the Empire's current formation." The display zoomed in on the alien fleet. They maintained their rigid ceremonial arrangements, beautiful but tactically vulnerable. Their ships were impressive, but their positioning revealed their inexperience with real combat. "They still think this will be easy," Stone observed. "Their weapons are powered down, their shields are at minimal strength, and they're bunched together like targets in a shooting gallery." Throughout the facility, final preparations continued. Quantum communication networks ensured their commands would reach Earth's forces instantly, unaffected by traditional jamming methods. Automated defense drones, hidden in asteroid fields and planetary rings, waited silently for activation codes. 45 minutes until their deadline," Baker announced. Stone opened a channel to all Earth forces. "This is Commander Stone to all units. For decades, we've prepared for this moment. We've studied every form of combat, developed technologies in secret, and built defenses the enemy cannot imagine. But our greatest weapon isn't our ships or our guns. It's our experience. Humanity knows war like no other species. We've learned its cost, its horror, and how to wage it when necessary. She paused, looking at the determined faces around her. The Empire thinks they're about to conquer another peaceful world. Instead, they're about to learn why humanity has survived every challenge we've ever faced. If they choose war, we'll show them why they should have listened to our warning. The command center hummed with activity as final checks were completed. Weapon systems were primed, shields were charged, and stealth systems were verified. Earth's hidden strength was ready to be revealed. 30 minutes to deadline. Baker updated. Stone watched the Empire's fleet on the main screen, noting their continued confidence in their positioning. They had no idea they were surrounded by humanity's true military force, hidden in plain sight. "Let's hope they make the right choice," she said quietly. "But if they don't," she turned to her crew, "we'll show them exactly why you should never underestimate humans in a fight." The countdown continued as Earth prepared to either welcome peace or demonstrate why the galaxy should have heeded their warning. The Empire's deadline passed without a retreat. High Commander Dax's voice boomed across Earth's communication channels. "Your time has expired. Prepare to witness the Empire's might." The Imperial fleet surged forward, their massive ships moving in perfect geometric patterns. Their weapon systems powered up, creating beautiful patterns of light that rippled across their hulls. It would have been impressive if it hadn't been so predictable. Commander Stone's voice was cold and clear in the command center. "Execute Defense Pattern Alpha. Let's show them what they should have been afraid of." The first surprise came when the Empire's initial volley of weapons fire passed harmlessly through what they thought were Earth's cities. The targets were just holograms. The real population centers had been safely hidden underground days ago. "They took the bait," Stone announced. "Titan, you have weapons free." Earth's AI defense system activated instantly. Thousands of tiny satellites, previously invisible to Imperial sensors, powered up simultaneously. Each one was smaller than a car, but carried weapons specifically designed to target the weaknesses in Imperial ship design. The Empire's perfectly arranged fleet suddenly found itself caught in a crossfire. Their rigid formations, maintained out of tradition and pride, became their worst enemy. Ships couldn't maneuver without risking collision with their neighbors. First wave impact in 3, 2, 1. The satellites fired in perfect coordination. Electromagnetic pulses destroyed Imperial communications. Quantum-tipped missiles slipped through their shields as if they weren't there. The Empire's beautiful formation dissolved into chaos. 30% of their fleet is already damaged or disabled, reported Lieutenant Baker. They're trying to regroup, but their command structure is in shambles. On the main screen, they watched as Imperial ships attempted to return fire, shooting at where they thought the attacks were coming from. But Earth's satellites were already moving, using patterns so random that even their own commanders couldn't predict them. "Launch the Ghost Squadron," Stone ordered. From hidden bases on the dark side of the moon, Earth's stealth fighters emerged. These ships were practically invisible, their surfaces absorbing all forms of detection. They slipped between the Imperial vessels like shadows, striking critical systems before disappearing again. High Commander Dax's voice crackled through their speakers, now showing signs of panic. "What is this? How are they?" His transmission cut off as his flagship's communications array exploded. "They're trying to retreat," Baker announced, "but they're having trouble calculating jump coordinates with their formations broken." Stone watched as the mighty Imperial fleet, which had never known defeat, began to fall apart. Their ships, designed for intimidation rather than actual combat, proved vulnerable to Earth's specialized weapons. Their crews, trained for conquest rather than warfare, had no experience with real battle tactics. "Second wave, commence attack," Stone commanded. From the asteroid belt, hundreds of automated drones activated. These machines had been waiting silently, disguised as space debris. They swarmed the Imperial ships like angry insects, targeting engines and weapons systems with surgical precision. "Imperial casualties at 30%, Baker reported. Another 40% are combat ineffective. They're beginning to break formation completely. On the screen, the once proud Imperial fleet had devolved into chaos. Ships collided as they tried to flee, their crews never having trained for such scenarios. Others fired blindly into space, hoping to hit the invisible enemies that seemed to be everywhere at once. "Send the message," Stone ordered. Every surviving Imperial ship received the same transmission. "This was just our first line of defense. You have 10 minutes to surrender or retreat before we reveal what we're really capable of." The effect was immediate. The Imperial ships that could still move began pulling back, abandoning their damaged companions in their haste to escape. The mighty Galactic Empire, which had conquered hundreds of worlds, had just learned a harsh lesson about humanity. "Should we pursue?" Baker asked. Stone watched the retreating ships, noting how their perfect formations had been reduced to a panicked scramble. "No," she decided. "Let them run. Let them tell others what happened here. Let the galaxy know that humanity warned them." And they didn't listen. The first battle against the Galactic Empire had lasted less than an hour. It would be remembered for centuries as the day an unstoppable force learned why humans should never be underestimated. Commander Stone stood on the bridge of Earth's flagship, the EDS Retribution, as it emerged from its lunar hideout. Around her, the bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, their training evident in every movement. "The Imperial fleet is regrouping at the edge of the solar system," reported Captain West. "They're calling for reinforcements." Stone nodded, watching as Earth's true military power revealed itself. Hundreds of warships, hidden for years in underground bases across the solar system, moved into attack positions. Unlike the Empire's flashy vessels, Earth's ships were built for one purpose: combat effectiveness. "All ships, battle formation Delta," Stone commanded. "Let's show them how humans really fight." The Earth fleet moved with fluid grace, each ship maintaining distance from its neighbors while covering their blind spots. There were no rigid patterns, no predictable formations. This was the difference between a parade and actual warfare. "Imperial reinforcements detected," announced the sensor officer. 300 more ships incoming." Stone smiled grimly. "They still think numbers will save them." Titan analyzed their approach vectors. The AI's response was immediate. Imperial ships maintaining traditional formation patterns. Vulnerabilities detected in their defensive screens. Calculating optimal strike points. High Commander Dax's voice boomed across the communication channels, trying to sound confident despite the earlier defeat. "Your primitive tricks won't work twice. Surrender now, and we'll be merciful." Stone opened a channel to all ships. "Remember your training. Hit and fade. No fixed positions. Make them chase shadows." Earth's fleet split into smaller attack groups, each operating independently but coordinating through Titan. The Imperial reinforcements found themselves facing an enemy that refused to fight according to any rules they understood. "Ghost Squadron, you have permission to engage," Stone ordered. The stealth fighters struck first, appearing seemingly out of nowhere inside the Imperial formation. Their quantum phase torpedoes passed through the Empire's energy shields as if they didn't exist, striking critical systems with surgical precision. "Imperial flagship targeted," reported the weapons officer. "They're trying to coordinate their defense, but their command structure is too rigid." Stone watched as Earth's ships demonstrated centuries of combat evolution. Where the Empire relied on brute force and overwhelming numbers, humanity's vessels used every dirty trick learned from countless wars. Small, fast attack craft slipped between the massive Imperial ships, exploiting blind spots in their sensor coverage. Electromagnetic pulse weapons disrupted their targeting systems. Decoy drones led their weapons fire away from actual targets. "They're splitting their forces," observed Captain West. "Trying to trap us between their squadrons." "Exactly as predicted," Stone replied. "Spring the trap." Hidden antimatter mines, planted hours earlier during the Empire's retreat, detonated throughout their formation. The Imperial trap became a killing zone. for their own ships. Imperial casualties mounting, reported Titan. Their command and control structure is failing. Individual ship commanders are acting without coordination. Stone watched as the mighty Imperial fleet began to crumble. Their ships, beautiful and powerful, but designed for overwhelming force rather than actual combat, proved vulnerable to humanity's asymmetric warfare tactics. Commander called out the communications officer. We're picking up transmissions between their ships. They're panicking. The Empire's forces had never faced an enemy that fought like this. They had no protocols for an opponent that refused to match their formations, that struck from impossible angles, that seemed to predict their every move. Target their flagship, Stone ordered. All ships, convergence pattern Omega. Earth's fleet moved like a swarm of predators, coordinated by Titan's instantaneous calculations. The Imperial flagship found itself surrounded, its escorts picked off with precision strikes. Imperial flagship shields are down, reported the weapons officer. They're broadcasting a surrender signal. Stone looked at the tactical display, where the remnants of the Imperial fleet were scattered across space. Their perfect formations were gone, their confidence shattered, their mighty warships reduced to drifting hulks or fleeing in terror. Send the message, she commanded, to all Imperial forces. This is what happens when you ignore humanity's warning. Retreat now or face complete destruction. The remaining Imperial ships didn't need to be told twice. They fled in disorder, abandoning their flagship and their wounded. The mighty Galactic Empire had just learned why humans were the most dangerous species they had ever encountered. Shall we pursue? Asked Captain West. Stone shook her head. No need. They'll carry the message for us. The galaxy needs to know what happens when you push humanity into a fight we didn't want. Inside the captured Imperial flagship, High Commander Dax stood with his head bowed before the holographic display showing Commander Stone. His once pristine armor was scorched, and his pride had been shattered along with his fleet. He hesitated, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. We request negotiations for an immediate cessation of hostilities. Stone's image remained impassive. The same negotiations we offered before you attacked. Around them, human engineers were already studying the Imperial ship's technology, while Titan processed the vast amount of data from their computer systems. What they found was revealing. The Empire had grown soft, relying on reputation and numbers rather than actual combat effectiveness. Our central command is concerned, Dax admitted. We've intercepted transmissions from your battles. They're being shared across the galaxy. Other species are watching. Good, Stone replied. That was the point. The command center's screens showed the extent of the Empire's defeat. Their mighty armada had been reduced to scattered groups of fleeing ships. The few that remained intact were broadcasting their surrender on all frequencies. We've never, Dax struggled with the words, in 10,000 years of Imperial expansion, we've never encountered anything like this. Stone pulled up footage from the battle. You relied on overwhelming force against peaceful species. But humans, we've spent our entire history preparing for wars like this. Every weapon we used was designed to counter exactly the kind of tactics you employed. Titan's analysis appeared on a secondary screen. Imperial military doctrine shows no significant evolution over their entire history. They never needed to adapt or improve. Your species, Dax said, his voice trembling slightly, fights like the demons from our ancient myths. No fixed patterns, no honorable formations, no predictable tactics, just chaos and destruction. We call it adaptive warfare. Stone corrected him. Something you learn when you've fought as many wars as humanity has. Every tactic has a counter. Every strategy can be defeated. The key is to never fight the same way twice. The room fell silent as more data poured in from across the solar system. The Empire's losses were staggering, not just in ships and personnel, but in their shattered reputation. Other species were already sending transmissions, asking about the power that had humbled the supposedly invincible Empire. Our scholars are reviewing your historical records, Dax said quietly. The sheer number of conflicts, the variety of tactics, the constant evolution of warfare. How did you survive? By learning from every fight, Stone explained. Each war taught us something new. We took those lessons and prepared for the next conflict. While you were conquering peaceful worlds, we were perfecting the art of combat. More reports flooded in. Imperial colonies were requesting independence. Subject species were beginning to rebel. The mighty empire was facing the greatest crisis in its history. Not just a military defeat, but a complete challenge to its fundamental beliefs. What are your terms? Dax asked finally. Stone's response was clear and firm. First, the Empire will acknowledge Earth and all human colonies as sovereign territory. Second, you will release any species that wishes to claim independence. Third, you will reform your first contact protocols. The Empire has never accepted terms from another. Dax began. The Empire has never lost a war before either. Stone interrupted. Times change. Adapt or face extinction. That's another lesson humanity learned long ago. The command center's displays showed more Imperial ships retreating from human space. Their sensors detected massive fleet movements throughout the Empire as they struggled to contain the spreading news of their defeat. Your terms are accepted, Dax said, the words clearly painful to pronounce. The Empire will comply. Stone nodded, then added one final point. Remember this day, Commander. Remember what happened when you ignored our warning. The galaxy should know. Humans don't want war, but we're always ready for one. As the transmission ended, Stone looked at the tactical display, showing the remnants of the Imperial fleet in full retreat. Humanity had faced its first interstellar war and emerged victorious, not through superior technology or numbers, but through the hard-earned wisdom of countless conflicts. The galaxy would never be the same. The species that warned had become the species to be feared. 3 months after the Empire's defeat, Earth's Global Defense Center hosted an unprecedented gathering. Representatives from 30 formerly subjugated species sat around a massive circular table with Commander Stone and Ambassador Wells representing humanity. The Empire has withdrawn from 12 major sectors, reported Admiral Miller, now leading Earth's new interstellar defense force. Their influence is rapidly declining across the galaxy. The alien delegates listened intently as holographic displays showed the changing political landscape of known space. The Empire, once spanning thousands of worlds, had shrunk to a fraction of its former size as liberated species claimed their independence. We've studied your battle recordings extensively, said a tall, crystalline being from the Rigel system. The way humans fight. It's unlike anything we've seen in millions of years of recorded history. Stone nodded. We didn't just develop weapons. We developed strategies, tactics, and the ability to adapt. Every war humanity fought taught us something new. The command center's main screen showed footage from the battle, now being used as training material across the galaxy. Former Imperial worlds were particularly interested in learning humanity's methods of warfare, not to use them, but to understand how to prevent war through proper preparation and diplomacy. The Empire's official historians have revised their protocols, Wells announced. They now classify humanity as the species that warns, a reference to our attempt to prevent conflict through honest communication about our capabilities. Several delegates nodded in approval. Their own worlds had fallen to the Empire precisely because they hadn't known how to warn potential aggressors effectively. But it's more than just military power, Stone continued. Humanity's real strength was never in our weapons. It was in our experience, our understanding of conflict, peace, and everything in between. The displays showed new trade routes being established, diplomatic missions between formerly isolated species, and cultural exchanges flourishing in the power vacuum left by the Empire's retreat. We're receiving requests for alliances from 17 different species, Wells reported. Not for military protection, but for guidance in building sustainable interstellar relationships. A holographic message appeared. the Imperial Senate's official recognition of Earth's sovereignty and their formal apology for the attempted invasion. More importantly, it included their new first contact protocols, heavily influenced by humanity's approach to interstellar relations. The Empire itself is changing, Miller observed. They're learning that true strength isn't about conquest. It's about understanding when not to fight. The alien delegates discussed among themselves, their various translation devices creating a symphony of languages. They had come seeking protection, but were finding something more valuable. A model for independence and peaceful coexistence. Earth will not become another empire, Stone declared firmly. We've seen too much war to want to start one. Our role is to help maintain peace through preparation and understanding. The meeting concluded with the signing of the Sol Accords, a new interstellar agreement based on mutual respect and the right of all species to self-determination. Earth would share its defensive knowledge while learning from the cultural and technological achievements of its new allies. The galaxy asked how a single planet could defeat an empire. Wells said as the delegates prepared to leave. The answer was simple. We didn't just warn them about our weapons. We warned them about our history, our experience, and our determination. Later, in the privacy of her office, Commander Stone watched the ships of their new allies departing Earth's orbit. On her desk sat a piece of the Imperial flagship's armor, now serving as a paperweight, a reminder of the day humanity proved itself to the galaxy. Titan, she called out, what's the current analysis of galactic stability? The AI's response was promising. Conflict probability down 78% in former Imperial space. New diplomatic channels opening daily. The species that warns has become the species that teaches. Stone smiled, remembering their first contact with the Empire. They had tried to prevent war through honest warning, and when that failed, they had demonstrated why their warning should have been heeded. Now, in peace, they were showing the galaxy a better way forward. The final reports showed humanity taking its place among the stars, not as conquerors or victims, but as teachers and guardians of a hard-earned wisdom. Sometimes the best way to prevent a war is to be truly ready for one.